mean, we had a king size bed, but after I learned everything I learned, I would be literally on the edge on my side of the bed, like on the edge. My back is on the edge, but I'm facing him.
So you had no peace. Who sleeps like that? Like that is not even what
It's crazy. I was like,
that
no,
is
I'm
not
not, my back is not, nope, nope. But it was
that is
scary
like so you
because
were
you're,
sleeping with one eye open, like
yeah, because you don't know the individual. So it wasn't like I was scared, like I think he's going to do something to me scared. It was scared at a higher level, like this is a being
mm.
in my space that is a stranger
Oh my God.
and they have
After
ill
25
will.
years.
They literally have ill will and they've kept me here. So he never thought I was going to leave.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to Journeys of Life podcast. I am here today with Karen Trasher. Trasher. Did I say that correctly, Karen?
Thrasher.
Trasher.
Thrasher. T-H.
Trasher.
Don't say
Tra-
trash. I'm not that. Thrasher. Come on, girl.
I love it. Trasher. I love that. I love that. Well, excuse me. I'm so sorry for saying that wrong. Well, welcome.
Come on, girl.
You guys are in for a treat today. I swear. This woman is absolutely amazing. She's here to tell us about her journey throughout this lifetime so far. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks for
You're
having me.
welcome. I
Mm.
mean, the pleasure is well mine. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Please tell my audience who is Karen.
Well, I am Karen Thrasher.
Trasher.
I was born in Columbus, Ohio. Um, but most of my life, I would say just over half of my life, I was raised, childhood, I was raised in Hampton Roads, Virginia. My parents were divorced. So my mom, she moved my brother and I back to Hampton Roads, Virginia, which is where she's from. So most of my, I guess, growing up years after elementary school was in Hampton Roads, Virginia. I I was a teenage mom, so I became a mom at 15. So that happened,
Okay.
um, but it didn't stop anything. Like I came out of school on time. I went to college. I was blessed to go
That's
away for a couple of years, but then it was so hard to be away from my daughter. After that second year, I was like, oh my God. Like every time I saw her and then we had to say goodbye, it just like ripped my heart out of my chest. So I was like,
okay.
let me transfer to so I came out of a Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, when I transferred.
Okay, pause
Um,
on that. Pause. We gotta expand on that because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of teenagers going through something that you already went through.
mhm.
So we definitely have to talk about it a little bit. How how was that like for you at that time? Like how hard or how easy was it? And when did
So
you realize that this doesn't stop anything?
so when it happened, first boyfriend, and it was scary. Uh, that time period was challenging. I was just going into high school. I was always the nice girl, the quiet girl. So, yeah, 10th grade was quite
Shocked
interesting.
everybody.
Everyone's like, "What? The
Whoa,
what?"
Karen?
Yeah, so it was very challenging because especially the kind of person I am, very private, very reserved. I don't have to be in the limelight. I don't have to be out in front. So it was difficult because, I felt like everything about me was just front and center. Everyone saw, I was pregnant after I started the show. So that was difficult for me. Um, so it was like that right there was like just a perseverance thing. It's just getting up, getting ready for high school, getting dressed, getting on the bus, going to school, acting like I wasn't, right? But I was. But I
Yeah.
had, close girlfriends that were just awesome, so supportive. Um, and so as far as not letting it like derail me, I don't know. I think it's like it was just kind of ingrained in me. Especially, from my dad's side of the family, just that whole no, I'm not gonna accept this. This is not me. So it's like I naturally had that thing in me. It was like, okay, okay. I know I'm pregnant, but I'm not this is not me. I will
Right.
not be the typical statistic, right? And
Right.
at that point in time, I remember there was probably about 3 or 4 other girls in school that were pregnant too. And I'm like, yeah, that's mm. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
just I just had it in me. That okay, well, this is what it is, but it doesn't define me.
It happened, and it does not define who you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, I uh, came from humble beginnings. We had very little. I was with my mom and my brother, and so when it came time to like, everyone's thinking about college and where to apply, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go through the motions too. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if I'll get accepted, but I'm just going to go through the motions just like everyone else.
Right.
And believe it or not, I only applied to two. Only applied to two. James Madison University. That was my top choice in Virginia. And then the second choice was Virginia Tech. And I was accepted to both. So I was like,
Wow.
whoa, okay. So
Hmm.
now how am I going to make this happen? And mind you, everything was on me. My mom and at that time stepdad, they really didn't help me with the process. It was
Hmm.
all on me. And so I found out about grants. I found out about school loans and things like that. Um, Luckily, because of the income of my mom and stepdad, and then he had, two children as well. So now you're talking about a house with 5 kids, right? Because my mom had two, he had two, and then my daughter. And I had all kind of money thrown at me, grants,
Yeah.
and my school loan. It was not that much compared to a lot of other people.
That's
So
amazing.
such a blessing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay,
Huge
I guess
blessing.
this is happening. I'm
Yeah.
going away for 2 years. Well, I
Yeah.
planned, I was just going away, and I'm very grateful for that, that I had that opportunity, right? Because those were 2 years that I was away at James Madison University that I was able to focus on me a little bit, my
Hmm.
education, just a different world,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, when I decided to transfer to Old Dominion University, I became a commuter student. I didn't stay on campus like I was at JMU.
Yeah.
Um, I went to classes, came home. But again, I came out on time and just didn't miss a beat. So it's just so
Wow.
proud of myself, right?
Proud of
Um,
you too.
yeah.
For not giving up. So who was first I want to ask, how did your parents take it when they found out?
So my mom, it was like, like, no, 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 I think, and she even, I remember her saying at one point, she literally was just telling like a coworker right before I told her that, I was pregnant, that, it was almost like, oh, I don't have any problems with my kids. My kids are like, basically, my kids are perfect. And it was like, okay, we might not want to talk like that as parents. Note to parents out there, don't say stuff like that.
My
Don't
child is
say that
perfect.
about your kids. Don't say that about your kids because guess what? something's going to come flying into your lives to make you understand, yeah, no one's perfect. Things happen. So, we just kind of rolled with the punches,
Mhm.
there was no discussion like, oh, you need to get out or anything like that. So I was very grateful that it wasn't that kind of conversation. Now, when she told my father, I, he was upset, but not necessarily at me, but more at her about, what happened. Because, of course, it's on her dime, right? Like,
Right,
so,
right. Like
yeah,
you
but
weren't watching her.
he never was upset with me about it, which was interesting. And even after she was born, she was like 6 months when he came down to scoop the stuff for vacation to Canada. So yeah, it was very blessed in that regard.
Yeah,
Um, so and then he's extremely supportive when it came to education, right? Going to college, no matter what, hanging in there. There is some family dysfunction going on that I had to deal with as well, like on top of everything else, right? So just staying focused on the task at hand and
yeah,
not necessarily knowing how things are going to turn out. You're like, okay, I just got my diploma. Now what? It's in political science and a psychology minor. Okay.
yeah.
And
Well,
Hampton Roads at that time, there really was nothing. Like, seriously.
so what decade was this? Just to put it into
She said,
perspective,
what
because
decade?
now it's, huh?
She said, what decade?
Yeah, because it's like now, nowadays it's like more free, and women,
Yeah.
like nobody's gonna really shame you. But I can imagine, like even in the when I was in high school, right?
Yeah.
It was like, ooh, okay. So I can just how what
In
I
the
mean? Like
80s. In
it
the
was, oh
80s.
my God.
I
So
came
it
out
was
of
just
high
like
school in 84 and college 88. So
that's
I'm a
amazing.
Gen X.
And you did all of that in that time. Not to say
Yeah,
now it's more advanced, but now it's like less people bat their eyes at certain things. It's just like, okay.
right. It's not a
But
thing
then
now.
that was a huge thing.
It was huge. It was
That's
huge.
huge.
Especially if you don't have the resources or you don't have the family who has it like that.
Hmm.
And even some families who would have it like that, they're so like upset or embarrassed or whatever to kick,
Yeah.
kick the kids out. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was very blessed, just to do my
Yeah.
thing, keep it going.
Yeah.
Um, so I had a little part-time job, with the city of Newport News, in the Parks and Rec department, working in the accounting team.
Hmm.
So that was actually nice. Great people. My manager, she was so nice with like inspiration, helping me get through some of the dysfunction, right,
Hmm.
on the
Hmm.
family front.
Hmm.
And I just decided one day, it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, why don't you go look in the DC area? Washington DC area. Let's go up there and find a job. And so I chose a week. I stayed with my college roommate's mom for that
Hmm.
week. She
Hmm.
lives in Alexandria, Virginia. And actually my college roommate came home that weekend because she was able to drive me around to different interviews that I had lined up. And I found a job that week. Before I even had to go back home, I landed a position and I was just so ecstatic because I was able to create my own and get away from just a lot of the family dysfunction, right?
Okay.
Some of which I had recently learned, like right before going. So that was a blessing,
It
and
was.
then,
So, wait, who was watching your daughter while you were in school?
so interesting thing, I having issues with my mom, right?
Hmm.
Um, my mom and I just
Clash.
constantly, yeah. So I said, well, we live pretty close to my grandparents, her parents, retired, whatever, peddling around the house and doing things. But my grandfather was always the one who would like to get out and do things. So I said, well, let me ask them if he could just, take my daughter to school and pick her up. And that's all I needed, was that to get her to school. Um, I was planning to give them a little something, something because I had a little part-time job. I had a little bit of money, right, from
Mhm.
college, but um, and I think he would have done it. He was a-okay with doing it. I was his first. No, actually, I was the second grandchild, but the first to accomplish all that I accomplished. And I was born on his birthday, so
Like kind of like your favorite grandchild type thing, right? That's wow. What a story. So
yeah.
Karen,
So I
give
think he
one
would have been.
advice. Sorry,
Hmm.
I just need you before you move on from this pregnancy. Like, give one advice to somebody, a teenager that is currently going through what you went through. They're pregnant,
Um,
you know.
as with anything, I tell anyone about whatever situation, it's mindset. Um, there's a lot of emotions that kind of go along with different life circumstances. That was one of them. I it's kind of hard to give advice on that because when I say it's mindset, it just came to me. It was me. It was who I was. Like
Mhm,
I just knew I wasn't going to let this define me, and I was going to do whatever it took to make it happen. Like when I got to a certain point in my pregnancy, I found out. I don't know how I learned about it, uh, but there was a program where I could have my main subjects. The teachers come to my house
mhm.
until I had my daughter. So I set that up. You know what I mean? It's just finding ways to make things happen.
Get
Um,
resourceful. Look
yes,
into
you gotta be
programs.
resourceful,
Yeah,
but if you don't have it in you, it can be tough, right? Um, I guarantee if you're in that situation where your parents are putting you out or something or making you leave the home, you got to become resourceful. Like you're forced, but it's more of a survival mode at that point.
hmm,
Luckily, I didn't have to do that. So
hmm,
grateful for that. Like, really
yeah,
was just focusing on my future, what I wanted it to look like. And but it's mindset. It's not like the one of the first things that I heard from my manager at the time, my part-time job, right after I came out of college, and she was like, this too shall pass. Like nothing stays the same, good or bad, forever. It's gonna pass. Um, how you choose to move your situation forward, a lot of it's on you. A lot of it's on you. When you have the right attitude, when you're doing the right things come to you. They
yeah,
just do. I've learned that. I didn't know it then, but now that I'm older, yeah, you do the right things, do all the things, and expect the best no matter what. Stuff comes to you.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Great advice there, guys. I don't know if, because people go through a lot of stuff at different stages of their life, and being a teenager is like, oh, the world might be crashing down. It's
Hmm.
not, you know, it does not define who you are.
Hmm.
It's all about your mindset. Get resourceful, and this too shall pass. That's what
Absolutely.
I'm gonna just leave it at that. But thank you for sharing that piece, and I think it can help a lot of people listening in. But okay, so you moved to DC, you landed a job before you left college, which is amazing. Congratulations. Like a lot of us graduate and it's like, oh my God, do I have to go work at the supermarket?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's messy. But okay, so then what happened? You moved to DC?
Yeah, moved in with my college roommate's mom. She let me stay there until because that was like in March of
Mhm.
1989, and
Mm,
and so I brought my daughter up to be with me after her school year was over. So
mhm,
that gave me time to find a place to somewhere else to live. I didn't want to
mhm,
because I was so grateful for my roommate's mother for even letting me live with her, for 3 months. But, I was on my grind, finding another place to live because I was bringing my daughter up, right?
mm.
And so that was scary too
Wow.
because I was going to have her to myself for the first time by
So
myself.
were you single at this point? Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
what
I'm
happened to,
single.
sorry, what
Yeah, I
happened
didn't
to
get married till way way later.
so that didn't go very far.
Yeah, yeah, it was my daughter and I, it was just the 2 of us for a long time. I did meet, my now ex-husband, while she was in high school. So that's when we met. So she was already
Okay.
kinda older at that point
Okay.
when he and I met. Yeah.
Okay. I got it.
Mhm. Yeah,
No
yeah.
worries. Okay. So,
So,
oh wow.
yeah.
So that, you had to deal with a lot. Like, okay, you're pregnant, you have a baby, and then you're no longer with the father, and that's a lot to take in at
Oh,
once,
yeah,
especially
the
at that
father
age.
thing. The father thing, yeah, he was non-existent. He was non-existent.
Oh, not even a little bit. Okay.
Not even. Yeah. His mom played piano in the church and
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was like kind of like, no, this is not my son, or this is not for me. I am a good boy, those type of situation. And
Well,
then,
with him, it wasn't necessarily that as far
uh-huh.
as him being like a good boy or whatever, um, but he was different than maybe the other child, his brother, right? I think his brother was the one who was like the prized possession. He really was not. So it wasn't necessarily like that. I think it's more about the whole family name thing. You know what I mean? Like, ugh.
Dragging our name through. But you know what? It's so sad that girls have to bear the burden because there's no way we can hide it, right? It's
Yeah.
going to pop out.
Yeah.
However long, like the girls that can hide is very few and rare.
Mhm.
It's going to show out.
Yeah.
But, and then you have to walk around with carrying that baby and,
Mhm.
being judged by society and everything
Mhm.
while the boy is just free to not
Mhm.
even acknowledge that child.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
so sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like there was communication sporadically, but nothing that was, nothing that showed he was contributing at all, really. So
Mm,
yeah, basically raised her on my own. Um, and
sorry.
um, and yeah, that's how life was. I was actually doing my thing, happy go lucky. It was hard being a single mom, but I was doing everything I needed to do. I had a part-time job once in a while, just to make ends meet and um had the typical student debt out of coming out of college, but I knocked that out. I don't know. I made a decision one day like, oh heck no. No, we're not gonna have this in my 30s.
Yeah. And then
So
you also had like the grants and all that stuff to kind of help minimize it a little bit, right?
the what now?
The grants you received and all the other stuff, right?
Oh, well, school loans, yeah. Like I
Mhm,
said, at that point, yeah, I'm paying that back. And that was small, but still,
mhm,
there were bills, there were things I was doing on my own. The salary wasn't all that, especially back then.
mhm, mhm.
Um, so but I was happy. I was living my life. I was my own person. I could make my own decisions, doing my thing as a single mom.
Yeah.
And and then I met my ex and yeah,
Oof. Mm.
that that was
Life deep.
yeah, he, you know, great segue into this and what we're going to be discussing today. um
Yeah. Yeah. You guys, we have a surprise for you guys. It's gonna get pretty deep very soon.
yeah, but he was perfection. He was perfection. That's all I can say. It's like in the beginning, when you meet someone who just takes your world by storm. Um, when I say perfection, I used to like, oh my God, you're like God, like how, I was just very observant on how he handled different things or how he was with people. I'm like, oh my God, he's just so patient and so nice and loving and just wow. And so things like that, when you meet someone like that, if you're someone like
Mhm.
me, I'm always self-reflecting. I'm always
Mm,
like, I know I'm not perfect. You know,
mhm.
there's always room for improvement and things like that. So I've always been that way. So for someone like me, you start to look at yourself like, wow, this is going to be a perfect compliment. I can do better by being around someone who is better, right? That's what I'm thinking.
That's the face they were showing you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so yeah, it was perfect in the beginning, and next thing we decided to probably within, I guess it was 4 years, 3 years, we decided to build a house together.
Mhm.
Because at that point in 1999, oh my God, home prices were amazing,
I
especially
can
where we were
imagine.
looking to build.
Yeah.
So you get this nice home, huge home, and it didn't cost as much as like now.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm not in the business of living with a boyfriend. Never wanted to do that.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, we're like 3 years in. So we had that talk, very short and brief.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, my expectation is we're gonna get married. This is not.
Like, are you wasting my time? It's 3 years already, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
because it is a good idea to get in, to purchase our home because he had already purchased his first place, a townhouse. Um, but we decided to do this single family home and moved in. It was finished in 2000, and then it took still 3 years
To the
to
finish line.
to
The
get married,
proposal or 3 years to
to
when?
get married, to get married.
Okay.
But there are just a lot of things going on still I couldn't quite put my finger on, even during those times.
Hmm.
Because again, I'm still thinking, oh, he's perfect. Like, even when things would come up, I would make excuses for why some things were happening. Um, so, we got married in 2003, and immediately, we got pregnant with my son like a month later. So he just turned 20. And normally when happy things happen in life, it's supposed to make your life kind of feel like it's improving, right?
Mhm.
Um, but not with someone like with him. And I had to learn this, that happy things happening in life, like buying our home, getting married, having a son,
Pregnancy.
instead of life going like this from a like, you know,
Yeah,
happy
it's
thing.
exciting. At
It's
first,
supposed to
it's
be a happy
exciting.
thing, right?
Right.
It's like this.
Mm.
Things are going down. Things are getting not so good.
So
And
he wasn't
so that's kind of
happy
like
with
what I
you.
wanted to. I'm sorry.
He wasn't happy with you having a baby, or what was the issue?
So when I think about that in particular, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I didn't
Oh,
I didn't see it then, but when I look back on a lot of thens, it's like, yeah,
hindsight
it was
2020,
there.
right?
It was there. It was there. So, this is kind of like where I'd like to go, because what I discovered after being with him for 25 years, married for 18. Um, I didn't understand what was going on. Like, the reason things lasted so long is because I didn't get it. I didn't, all I knew was I was just trying to, I know I thought I kept trying to do this to make it better or do that to make it better. Or maybe I can change myself to be this way. Or maybe I can change the way I communicate. Or maybe this is a good time, not that time. Or, well, maybe if I show by example how it should be done, then maybe you'll get it. And like years and years of, something's wrong, but it's not getting better, right? Communication is crazy. Like, and I think communication is so paramount with anything. Business relationships, personal relationships, in the workplace, period. Communication. Like, you got to talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like I was hitting my head up against a brick wall with all of my efforts. And so things did get pretty bad. Things got really, really bad just progressively over the years.
Quarter of a century.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Long time.
a lot of what um, experienced was just the never apologizing, no matter what.
Mm.
Like, I've never seen anyone in my life that could never apologize. Like, ever. Like,
Like,
you
was it
literally,
always your fault?
you literally know exactly what you like literally just did 2 seconds ago. And you can't apologize. Like, when I say it's the weirdest thing to watch someone after you've expressed something they did or said that was hurtful, and for them to look at you like,
Like
no,
you're crazy?
now would be the time to apologize, right? Like what we
Right,
tell our
right,
kids. We
right.
raise our kids. You have to learn how to apologize when you do something wrong. And it's just the craziest thing to watch that. It's almost like the person will go down in flames. They will be plane crash before before apologizing. It's the craziest thing to witness.
So
So
sad.
there's just a lot of that, constant state of evaluating myself, like I said. Um, Walking on eggshells, trying to figure out when to do what. Um, Feeling like, it got to a point where you felt like the person just hates your gut. Like someone's looking at you or it's just looking at you and it's just like, they're just looking at you like, oh my gosh. And it's just crazy, right? It's so like, oh my God, what have I done? And and then of course, along with a lot of what I experienced was, constant infidelity. So constant,
Ooh,
so much so that wasn't even like the biggest thing. It's sad to say,
that
but that
is
wasn't
so
the
sad.
biggest thing that I discovered that like what made me act, And so, you know, what I'm
So wait,
describing.
we have to dissect this a little bit so people can understand what is going on right now. So there was constant cheating, constant lack of taking responsibility for your actions, for their actions, right?
Mhm.
Constant, like, you knew something wasn't quite right with this relationship, but you couldn't put your finger on it because the person was literally gaslighting you, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a thing called cognitive dissonance.
Mm.
So I'm still thinking he's this person that who I met that, well, sure, he wouldn't do that. Like that's okay. It must be their fault because women can be terrible. Like women can this and women can that. That literally is what I'm thinking. It's the
Wait,
women's
wait.
fault.
So you were thinking it's your fault?
No, not me, but them who he was, cheating.
Oh, the
Their fault.
infidelity. It
They're
was
manipulating him. They're making he's
oh,
so nice. He's so sweet.
okay.
He's so soft spoken. It must be hard for him to say no. So
Because they were coming on to him. Yeah.
I'm blaming them.
Oh boy.
It's
Okay.
crazy, right?
That is nuts. Wow.
So here we go. With your permission. This is what we're describing, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's
um,
hear it because I'm just like,
yeah,
so you had
this
this
is,
cognitive dissonance in your brain, like he's perfect, the woman
but
he's
I'm
cheating with,
experiencing something different.
yeah.
You know what I
So it's
mean?
like the woman he's cheating with must be coming on to him, and he's so nice that he can't say no. And okay, so did you ever confront him about like
Oh yeah,
why all these women?
always, always finding stuff because when you do things in the dark, things come to light, and I'm telling you, stuff
Mm-hmm.
always just kind of fell in my lap.
Mm,
But I don't know why I tolerated it though, because that wasn't even the kind of person I was, right? But and as I'll explain in a second, the type he was. So what we're talking about is narcissism, right?
oh,
Um, and it's a real thing. And I'm just going to read because it's literally in the psychology DSM book. um, pages 669 to 672. So
go.
narcissism, it's a diagnosis. So it's something that is diagnosed. It can be, not often enough, but it's a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy, with interpersonal entitlement, exploitiveness, arrogance, and envy. So that's the definition according to the DSM. So when people hear that, you're like, okay. When you hear that, it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, all
It
right.
goes over your head. Like, what did you
Yeah,
just
the
say the
person
other
is
day?
that way. Okay, no big deal. You just don't deal with them. All right, no, whatever. That's what people think. But first of all, narcissism, there's a spectrum, right? You have a spectrum. Because all of us have some narcissism, right? You have healthy narcissism, or you can be in the
Mm,
middle, or you could be totally at the other end. But it's a spectrum, right? It's nice
mm-hmm,
to have self-love and self-care and feel good about yourself and feel powerful when you're, you know, um, in a positive way, right?
mm,
Maybe facing fears or overcoming adversity. It's good to have that, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, so as defined in the DSM book, there's 9 criteria.
mm.
And if you check off 5 of those things at least, you're considered a
A
narcissist.
narcissist. Okay.
And so mine checked off 8.
Holy moly.
8 out of 9.
Oh,
And so, that and there are different things. Um, Manipulation and lack of empathy, the typical things that you hear about,
mm-hmm,
self-importance, entitlement, um, things like that. There's you will look like on Google, do a search on the types of narcissism. You'll see different lists like, oh, there's 3, there's 7, there's 5, there's 9 types.
mm.
Okay, there's three
Okay.
basic types is overt, covert, and malignant. So those are the 3 like main
You're gonna have to
categories.
educate us.
Yeah, 3 main categories, right? And please trust me, I want to look, caveat, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
What I'm sharing is what I learned as I learned what
From
was going on
experience.
and
Mm,
my experience. And because
mm,
I had my experiences, that's why I flung myself into learning all about this. So overt is like the grandiose type. Um, you kind of see it. You can kind of see the person is very, bragging about themselves, and they're just you. they're wearing it on their sleeve. Like you
Mhm.
can tell, you
Mhm.
know, a grandiose or overt
Mhm.
narcissist. And it's since it's very easy to see that, you can choose very quickly. Like if you meet someone like that, you can choose very quickly, like, yeah, nah, I don't want to deal with that person. Nope. Next.
Right.
Like I
Right.
don't, and you're not wasting your life.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, it's just very easy. You know right off the bat that, yeah, that's not my kind of person.
Mm.
Covert, which was my kind. Um, Covert is, it's like what they say, like the closet one. Um, it's
Mm.
so much harder to see.
Mhm.
Um, they're like it's stealth-like and it's long lasting. That's
It's
why it's
dangerous.
kind of dangerous because you will be here in your life, and at the end, you're like rock bottom as the victim,
Mhm.
right? Um, they're so nice. They're like humanitarians, they do great things.
On the
Um,
outside.
yeah, on the outside, like
Stay perfect.
no one
Yeah.
would ever fathom that you would experience these things, right? There's the passive aggression, you know, playing the victim,
Hmm.
but you don't know that's what they're doing. Like it's just the most craziest thing. Manipulation,
Wow.
communication nightmare, right? It's slow. And then you have malignant. Malignant, malignant, they don't care. Malignant, they really don't care about ruining your life.
Sounds
They
psychopathic.
yeah, they're the
What?
stalkers, the ones who can be violent, you know what I mean? They don't care. They will do anything and everything to bring you down. Okay.
Oh.
Now, granted, mine has a little bit of sprinkling of that, the malignant, because I saw things, as we were going through the divorce, um, how he was. Like
Trying to
the
ruin
world
you.
wouldn't see what he was doing, but he literally tried to take me out. Like, and I don't mean physically,
I
because
get it.
luckily for me, mine was so focused on his public perception and his position, right? He's done very well. He's a high level C-suite at a major corporation in this country. Okay.
Mm.
So public image was everything for him. But on the, behind the scenes, it's like, whoa. Um, so yeah, those are the three
Okay,
main
wait, 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 wait a
categories.
minute, Karen. Wait a minute, Karen. Wait a minute, girl. Listen, you cannot just leave us like this. Like, wait, we have to dissect this stuff. So how? So basically, it was like you were dealing with the stealth type, which sounds very dangerous because even if you went out and told your story, nobody would believe you. That's what it sounds like, a snake in the grass.
And you start to question yourself.
And you think you're like, am I
You're going crazy.
delusional? Am I
Yes,
crazy?
yes, you lose
But
yourself.
then behind closed doors, he was malignant, meaning that he would do anything to just destroy you.
Yeah, but he was so masterful about it. Like when I kid you not, if anyone could be a master at something, master of manipulation, that no one could see it. So, and of course, it became a little bit more apparent though as years go on. So it always gets worse as years go along.
Mm.
People, my son, he saw everything, right? He didn't understand it when he was little, but by the time he was 17, when things kind of popped off, he's like, yeah. And because he experienced things from his father himself, right? So you have that whole dynamic of not just the spouse dealing
This is
with that,
crazy.
but you have
Yeah.
the children dealing with that, right?
So how was it like raising your son in a household? Okay, pause. Where was your daughter at this time too? Because I know
Oh, she was out. She was out on her own.
she was already grown by
Yeah.
that time. She was
Yeah. Because my
okay.
daughter and my son are 22 years apart. Can you
Whoa.
believe that?
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like,
So,
what was I thinking starting all over again?
but wait a minute. So it's like you had a child to raise, with while in this house type of house, and kids
Not
are so smart.
understanding. Yeah, not
Right,
understanding what
kids,
was going
kids,
on.
kids. You have to give them more credit than we give them, because sometimes we think they don't understand stuff, but they watch and they
Yeah.
notice and they pay attention to things, right?
Yeah.
So how was it for you as a mom trying to shield him from the crazy, for lack of better word?
I I did my best, right? I mean, I managed. It was like being a married single mom. So, career was everything, to my ex. So I did my mom
Mm,
thing, right? I was always there. It wasn't easy. We also had, issues, from school, and he has ADD, so he was diagnosed in the third grade. So there were challenges, right?
mhm,
Everyone has some kind of challenge to deal with, and so I did my best. I managed, but what was interesting was starting to see how the dynamic was with my ex and our son as he got older. They say a lot of times when you have more than one child in the family,
mhm,
um, you always have that one. You always have the one that can see everything.
mm.
They're the one that isn't influenced like the others, be it by things and money and whatever kids
The
like,
wise
right?
one
Whatever they
beyond
want.
their years,
There's
yeah.
always the one that's like, I'm not even into that.
The
I'm not
observer,
even into that, so I don't even
yeah.
have an interest in that. You know what
Right,
I mean?
right, right.
That was our son. He when at a certain age, boys are into different things, into cars or into this and into that. He didn't even understand what we had. Like, he didn't understand how we lived.
He was
And I
well
was
off.
intentional on raising him that way. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, yeah, we have this car and that car, but he didn't really understand until maybe some friends came over and was like, dude, that's your car. It's like, he didn't get it. He didn't care. He didn't care about money and things until a little
Great job,
later.
mom.
Yeah, he was
He
just in
wasn't
his own.
materialistic.
Yeah,
So
he
you
wasn't
raised him.
materialistic. And
Yeah.
I made sure, yeah, we're
Yeah.
not gonna raise someone like that.
Yeah.
So because of that, he would be to himself a lot, you know. And I think my ex saw that before I saw that, because I could never understand why he wouldn't want him around. He wouldn't just take him to the store, like go to the Home Depot, and because we did a lot of projects on our home, and he would never like take him to places like that or just to hang out. He played golf. He ruined my son's golf experience. My son was like, no,
That's your
I
son.
don't want to go anymore with him. And he was good. Our
Yeah.
son was good because we had him in lessons at 5. You know, he was a natural. But because of his father, he was like, nah, I don't want to do it ever again. Nope.
So why do you think that, because I understand being a narcissist and, just it's all about me, but this is like your own blood, like your own flesh and blood. So is that like part of like they just don't care about, it's almost like psychopathic, like you just don't
There
have,
you go. Yeah. It doesn't matter
you
if
just
it's your,
got
it doesn't
nobody,
matter
even
who
if
it is. It doesn't matter who it is. And it's very painful to watch that. I'm going to tell you, that's been the biggest thing. Um, even after I decided. So, apparently, I'm where I am now. Things got pretty bad where I got to the point where I needed to understand. I don't know. We had the last argument where I'm just crying profusely, trying to understand what's going on. Why do you hate me? I don't get it. Like wailing in my hands, crying. And he just kind of rolled over and went to sleep. It's like, so that's the empathy thing. It doesn't
there's
matter.
no empathy.
There's no empathy. So, and it doesn't matter if it's your child either, right? I saw that. Um, it was
So
after
wait,
that
wait,
night.
wait, 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 slow down, girl. So you were there crying. bawling in pain. As a human, you see another person crying in pain, you just want to go console them, right? Even no matter what type of argument you had, you don't just walk away. Like, I mean, that's a human being. So in your case, you're saying that you were literally in this much.
He went to
He
sleep.
just was like,
And I'm
he
still
was like,
crying as he,
what?
yeah. Yeah. And so it took me, a while to clean up my face and the sniffling, all that. And I just made a decision that night. I just kind of looked at him like, you know, you will never, ever hear me cry again, ever. And it was the next day. I just did a basic Google search. I
Mm,
just typed in mentally, emotionally,
mhm.
psychologically abusive husbands, and that was it. Like, what came at me was like floodgates just opened up,
So
and
that
I
was your breaking
soaked it
point,
all in. Yeah,
right?
I just learned so much, just by articles, videos, YouTube. Um, a lot of that I'm gonna share with
Gonna
that with
share for
you, so
sure.
you can list in your comments. But yeah,
So before that, have you ever tried to leave him at any point during the 25 years, the
we
marriage?
separated once before. So we had
Okay.
separated in 2015. He left. As I learned is that, I learned he knew he was coming back. I didn't think that. I thought it was over. But he left the first time. He was
Mm,
gone a year, but he was so good about, you know, making me feel like we're dating again. And, my son and I would go to his place sometimes and hang out. And yeah, I'm
it was a
thinking, oh,
trap.
yeah. Um, and I kid you not, his first night back, I knew I made a mistake the very first night. And so I'm like, okay, so here we are. Let's just, you know what? He's back. So, I just went on with life, had a lot of challenges. I, over my career, I had been laid off a couple times. So all of the marriage, I wasn't working. About 7 years, I wasn't working, maybe, off and on. So at that, there's been times I'm just trying to maintain everything else, right? Either I'm working and dealing with the household and our son and, being a wife and all those things, you know, um, or I wasn't working but still doing everything, right? Still, like it didn't stop, right? And then we would have projects and things that on our home where I was there with the contractors. And so I learned so much, going through all that, but just busy, just life just kept going and going. So yeah, we tried counseling at that point the first time, and that was a disaster the very first day. Um, I was like, whoa.
Why?
That first session, the therapist was like, "Okay," well, she turns to me. She says, "Well, I would like to hear from you, kind of describe, um, why are you here? What are you looking to get out of this session? What have you experienced?" So I'm explaining like facts, like because more than just emotion, it's just explaining the things that have happened, like things that you can't deny, like things that have been proven to happen. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I'm just describing this in a very calm way. We're in therapy. I'm not here to be upset. At that point in time, we were separated. So I'm like, I'm done anyway, because I had been asking for therapy, for a while, but he really wasn't into it. And then he waits till he's about to leave and be like, oh, well, let's do therapy. And I'm like, really? You want
Was
to do?
this the first
Yeah,
separation?
the first separation. And so
Okay.
I'm like, fine. I'm like, okay, fine, we can go. I've been asking for this forever, but now for some reason you want to do it. So that first session, I'm just describing everything, because at that point I'm like, well, everything's back up. My back is up against the wall. When you feel like
Mm,
your back is up against the wall, you're okay. you're calm. You're, you know. And when she turned to him to describe his part, he blew up. Like, and that's another thing you learn about narcissists. The slightest criticism, even things that most people wouldn't think is a real hardcore criticism,
Mhm.
it is major to them. So for me to
Mm.
share what I said in front of someone, it just he blew a gasket. And I mean, he literally made me feel like I was like the devil himself, like the way he was talking, but he wasn't saying anything, right? It was all emotion, but he had nothing. He never had anything over me, like never, never anything. I would never cheat on anyone, even if I'm dating you. I would never cheat on you. You know what I mean? It's like he has so many things stacked up against him, but I had nothing. He had nothing. So everything he described, he was just trying to, blame, and I was the reason for infidelity and things like that. And you know what I mean? Just
Whoa. So
that
why were you the reason? Like, what was the answer to that? Because I'm so why-
I'm not enough. I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to do. Because after a while, you don't want. After a while, when you're experiencing abuse like that, you don't even want to be like around the person, especially being married, the whole intimacy subject.
yeah.
I'm like, "Ugh," like, oh, I want to go to sleep, or I would intentionally kind of go to bed after he would go to sleep. So it affected
You wanted
everything.
you wanted away from him. So
Yeah.
when you ask him, I know we talked about this, like when you ask him why all these women, what was his answer?
Yeah, that was one of the things I asked him towards the end, like, when I knew what was going on. So there's a point in time I knew what was going on. I read everything, had gone through all my emotions. And it was one day, I don't know, he was trying to argue about something. And I just said, just very calmly, I just asked him, I said, you know what? I want to ask you, like, why so many women?
Mm.
Because I wasn't getting all my needs met. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, my husband literally just told me this. It's just like, and it was just so matter of fact, like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
he was doing this before anything. Like it was ongoing. It wasn't just,
he was just so calm about it. Like it was
and it was
nothing.
just not
And
like
then,
it
of
was
course, at that point in time, I was like, "Hmm, okay. Well, this is the first time there was some honesty." You know what? Like, I have a really weird way of being humorous about craziness, right? So
yeah.
I was at a point in time then that I really just asked him because I just was curious to know what he was going to say. Like, I really want to know what he's going to say when I ask this question. Because
Mm-hmm,
normally they
mm-hmm.
don't like you to ask questions.
Mm,
Why? Why would you do that? Or why did, well, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? Like, that would just irritate
mm.
crazy. Um, so, just that was just the
How
journey,
did
right?
he
That
tell
first
you?
session, I felt horrible. I felt like, wow, like I felt like a Mack truck ran over me after that session. And on the way home from that session, I was like, well, I'm good. It's over. Like it was crazy. So it's like when I had to start to feel that power coming back, I guess that's probably why he started to notice because we still had other sessions, right? He started to notice the power coming back. Like, oh, she's okay with this. This isn't working the way I planned. So that's when I think things kind of, like I said, he laid it on. I didn't understand I didn't see it coming. Like I said, I thought we were dating again and everything's all good. He wanted to spend time with his son and us. And so everything just turned around and was all good. And that's when he came back. Um, so I just lived life. And then, in 2020 is basically when I realized everything. 2020, November 12th. I
Wow.
remember dates like crazy.
I I mean, you would remember something if it's very deep, profound emotional impact on you. So
Absolutely.
The first separation was 2015, and then
Hmm.
the final draw was like at 20, September 2020. You were
Yeah,
like,
we're good. We're doing COVID's
that was when
happening.
you cried and were like, never
Hmm.
again.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Um,
one question, during all these things, did it ever get physically abusive? Like, you know.
um, one time we were arguing outdoors in our outdoor kitchen area, and this is when let me just say, me as a person, like in my 20s, like growing up, I was always that person was like, who are you talking to? You're not gonna talk to me that way. You're not gonna treat me that way.
Mm,
Like I was just that way
mm-hmm.
naturally. So I think throughout these years, a little bit of that would pop up just to give me some kind of like, I'm pushing back. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So during this argument, I'm arguing back with him, and I'm like, doing like this. He's like, "Get your hand out of my face." I mean, my hand wasn't in his face, but he's like, "Get your hands out of my face." And I just went, boop, being silly. Because again, I can be silly in these weird moments, just it's like a defense mechanism, a protection,
Right,
right?
right, right.
I just did this little boop, and he immediately put his hands right here, like his thumbs right here. His hands around my neck. I can still feel that, like now when I think about it.
I'm
And I
so
was
sorry.
like, and then I think it scared him.
Mm,
And he was like, oh, shoot. Like, and then I immediately went in the house. I got on the phone because I was trying to call my most trusted family member at that time. Um, but that was it. That was the only time.
why didn't you
And
think to call the police? Like, what was going through your head? Like,
no, I
why
didn't. I didn't
kill?
think to call the police. I was calling because again. So this is being a covert narcissist, and I didn't explain this to a lot of what I had was they're considered to be vulnerable as well. So he's a vulnerable narcissist. The
Mm,
same issues, like he's not. So I knew, I didn't feel like I was in danger, put it that way, because of what
okay.
person he was, right? And I'm already thinking, okay, I know his position, his career, his company, you know what I'm saying? I would never just I didn't feel like I needed to call the cops. I was calling my most trusted family member when that happened. She didn't pick up. It went to voicemail. But, after that, I
So
told
you
him,
were trying to protect him, basically, because of the type that he
yeah,
was.
yeah.
It made you feel like you needed to protect his career, and if you did that, you would ruin something for
Yeah,
him.
because he was vulnerable. They're called vulnerable. Like coverts can be vulnerable, passive aggressive. They
Mm,
downplay themselves sometimes. Oh, I'm not really that, but they want the reverse. They want you to still pump them up because it's crazy. The
my God, it
whole
sounds like some crazy
dynamic.
mind game.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I knew how he was in that regard. So I didn't feel like I was in danger, right? Um, so that happened once and only once. But they said, something like that can happen once, can happen again. But I addressed it the next day. I said, you know what? So what I did to you in jest could never kill you, but what you did to me, that was a killing motion. Like seriously, what was that? And that's how I'm talking to him. So I wasn't scared. I didn't feel fearful. I was
Mm,
again putting it to him like, what was that?
mm.
You know? Um, so yeah, that one thing did happen. But again, we weren't at the point towards the end yet, right?
So
The
what was his
rage
answer
just
when you
happened.
addressed it?
Hmm.
What was his answer when you addressed it? Like, what did he say
I
to
was
you?
always just looking at you like you just have the dead eyes, just kind of look at you like just like I don't know what to say. What do you want me to say? That look. And you're like, yeah,
Oh my
crazy,
God.
crazy. So really, the marriage was me experiencing things and having the courage to say the things, right? Like to communicate what you did. How did it make me feel? But then that was it. Things would kind of go away. No apologies ever. Dead
Mm.
stare, just the look. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is insane. So that's why I felt like literally beating my head up against a brick wall. Like, I don't understand this. Um, so I knew I had to get out of, I didn't know how I was going to get out of the marriage. I wasn't working at that time when I discovered in
Oh.
2020. And I was caring for, again, that most trusted relative. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she had breast cancer, so she was living, with us. We opened our home up to her and her son. I was caring for her, and that was probably the biggest mistake
Mm-hmm.
of having her in our home. And she turned out to be the one family member. I mean, I had other family members who weren't there for me when I was going through a lot of things, but she was the one who I trusted 1000%. She's my cousin, but she was like my little sister and my best friend. So she knew everything over the years. But for some reason, I guess her stuff popped out towards me, right? And so it was a very trying time between November 2020 and when he finally left May 2021. So the I had to just focus on her, right? Complete my job, complete my role, care for her. Things were kind of deteriorating to some degree with her because she snapped at me a couple times. That was very hurtful, and I didn't even understand what was going on with her. So that's what I'm saying. It's like sometimes you put people in certain situations, they start to show you what they really were thinking about you. For,
Mm.
and so had to deal with that. I had surgery in I had neck surgery. I have my little scar here, but I had
Mm-hmm.
four of my discs fused. One was bulging. No, one was pinching a nerve, and then the other three they discovered was starting to bulge towards my spinal cord. So I'm like,
Mm.
well, if you're going to go in for the one, let's just let's just get
Let's
the
do
other three
everything at
done.
the same time.
And so this is what I mean. Like after that whole thing, you talk about lack of empathy. I was in a house full of people and no one cared. No one, no one.
And your son was around this.
Yes, but he would stay in his room.
He kept to himself.
He kept to himself
Whoa.
because he saw what was going on too. Like my cousin, his dad, even his little cousin, it's like, what is like, it was obvious something was wrong, right?
Mm.
So I said, well, I'm going to continue doing what I have to do. Get her through her phases of everything, her surgeries, her, radiation treatments and all that. So, she finally left. She went back home that April
Mm-hmm.
and literally it was backing up to so my surgery was in February. February
Mm-hmm.
2nd. I discovered my ex had already lined up another place to live before my 2-week checkup. My 2-week follow-up, I discovered he had already started leasing the same place as the first time, matter of fact.
So
Like,
at that time, he knew that you didn't
he
want no part of him, and it was over.
no, he didn't know. He didn't know yet. He didn't know about what I knew yet. He
Mm.
didn't. He may have suspected because I was different. Because, when you have knowledge, you're different,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I never said anything because what you don't
Mm.
want to do is ever call one a narcissist. Uh, You never want to and it's not up to you to diagnose, right? All you know is your experiences. So you don't,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I was like, okay, now I can focus on what I need to do. I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. I'm not working, you know. So but it happened for me. We were having we were grilling. My daughter and her spouse was over at the time, and it was that day. He had a lot to drink. That was another thing. I could see he's relying on alcohol a lot more too when he would come home every day. It's like, goodness, like, I would express, like, are you okay? Like, because it's a lot. And, but that day he had a lot. And I really wasn't hanging out like outdoors, with my daughter and my spouse and him. But it was just like, wow, this is crazy. I don't know how I got to figure out how I'm gonna get out of the situation. So that night, apparently, I was told, um, he was literally telling my daughter, "Oh yeah, I'm going to give the house to your mom." This is my daughter, okay? He's talking to my daughter about what he plans to do without talking to me about what we plan to do, right? So, after they left, I was like, "Look, I need to ask you, why on earth would you ask? Why would you talk to her about what you plan to do?" And that was he blew up, like, rage to the 10th degree, like 10,000th degree rage. So much so he didn't even understand. He wasn't even aware of what was going on. My son heard us. He ended up leaving, slamming the front door. I could hear downstairs. The alarm starts going off, and he's just going and going and going. So I'm like managing him, dealing with him, all the craziness he was saying. And I hear my son's out. It's at nighttime. I didn't want him just walking around our neighborhood, you know, young African American male, because we have to have those talks with our sons as African Americans, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm trying to reach him. Like, I don't want you just walking around. The alarm went off before I knew what was going on. So I know the cop's going to come, right? There's going to be a response to the alarm.
Mm-hmm.
So please come home. Just come. He said he was just walking around the block. He had to get out the house because he heard his dad. So so of course I heard the doorbell, and of course the police officer had arrived. And so I'm there, and I was like, yes, he confirmed I was the owner of the house. And luckily I saw my son start to come up the street, from the corner. But it was dark, it's a dark street in our neighborhood. And I said, yes, our alarm went off. My son, I just told him, he set the alarm off when he left.
Right.
And I didn't realize it until too late, right? He's like, okay. So he checked things out. He's all right, well, everything is good. I just wanted to check. I said, matter of fact, here's my son here. I'm pointing him out, like, and he was good. So, he's walking away down the driveway towards his car. And then my ex comes into the foyer from upstairs. And I guess he saw it was a cop. And he's just like going off, accusing me of calling the cops on him. I'm like, nope. I have no reason to call. No reason to call the cops on you. Like, nope, that's not. But see, that showed me he wasn't even aware of what's going on. He could hear everything. We have a huge open space, like a two-story foyer. Everything, you can hear everything pretty much upstairs. Just kind of echoes throughout. And so he really wasn't aware. He wasn't aware. He didn't know our son had left. He didn't know any of that, which I learned later throughout the divorce. But so that's how it happened. That's how the beginning of my next phase started. And I was grateful because he wasn't there, right? The presence wasn't there. And it was a lot to go through, like with my cousin and him. Um, so what I didn't expect was, when we separated the first time, he did take care, because I was laid off at that point too, from HP. They split into two companies, so they did a lot of restructuring. So I was a victim of that whole layoff thing then. But he had just left the first time, but he covered, the expenses of the you know, the house, things like that, right? This time he started to financially strangle me. He would give money, but it wasn't enough, right? There wasn't enough. And I'm like, wow, your son's here though. Like it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter if his son was here or not. It didn't matter. And so it was because of that. And then he was like, well, I'm not obligated to give you anything else. I'm not. I'm like, wow. So that kind of forced me to I had to find an attorney. Of course, my girlfriends are like, Karen, if you don't, if you don't get this attorney. So what I also learned is divorcing a narcissist, like divorce is not a good thing, right?
It's not
Just in
easy.
general. Just in general.
Yeah.
Especially if you have children. But I learned very early on, before everything happened, because remember, I'm just soaking in information that attorney fees and the time of the divorce, it just drags out. Your fees are skyrocketing. They try to sabotage stuff.
And you were not working at this time.
Absolutely. But I had work. I had a career. I had a 401k plan. So so
That's what
I
helped
had to
you.
make a withdrawal. I
Mm-hmm.
had to bite the bullet with the taxes, but
Mm-hmm.
I took a sizable withdrawal to cover what I thought would, take care of the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And it was strictly that attorney money. And she was my security blanket. Um, I was blessed that she was aware of this. A lot of attorneys aren't aware of narcissism or what it can do. A lot of therapists, they don't know enough about it. They think it's one thing, especially if they're good, like mine was, with the image and the manipulation and looking like the victim. I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, right?
So that
So,
type is the overt.
oh, covert.
Covert.
Covert
Not
is when it's,
overt is like flamboyant, like look at me, I
yes,
don't care, I'm just this.
yeah.
And covert is like, undercover kind of like
Mhm.
hidden and just like on the
Yep.
outside they're perfect,
Yeah.
but
But they're
they're
very,
putting you.
you bruise them very easily, right? They're very vulnerable. You could
Hmm.
tell there's a low self-esteem there because I remember over the years trying to help him with that. Like, no, no, you're
Was it
this.
all an
You're
act
that.
though?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all a part of it. But I didn't know that, right?
Mm,
Yeah. So, having the attorney was pivotal. My son was 17, so it's not like, we had we tried to have a schedule for him to see his son, but I
mhm,
kept a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet for everything. Literally
mhm,
had a spreadsheet on how often he came to see him or pick him up, which wasn't often.
mm.
So I started to see that whole dynamic. And but the best thing in this situation with the narcissist, if you can be no when I read and when I learned that the best thing is to be no contact, I said, okay, I have no problem with that. No contact whatsoever. We do not have to talk. And my attorney was so awesome with helping with that because all communication was between her and his attorney. You know what I mean? I shut that down. I'm one of those people that I follow rules sometimes
Mhm.
to a fault. But when I learn, like if you tell me to do something a certain way, and I'm like, yeah, that seems like a good way of doing. Like if you tell me to do it this way, I'm going to do it that way.
Hmm.
I'm that kind of person. So
So why
sometimes
do
that's
they
a good thing.
recommend?
Sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it can get you in trouble for sure. So
Yeah.
why do you think they recommend no contact with these type of individuals?
So if you make the decision, right? Because it's all about making a decision after you discover you're either going to stay or you're going to try to get out of the situation. If you decide to get out of the situation, being no contact, it helps with your healing. It helps not to get sucked back into that cycle because there's a cycle. You have your love bombing, and then you're devaluing, and then you're when they literally just discard you, right? And then it's like this. It just goes around and around. They give you little breadcrumbs. It's like a trap. It's crazy, but it's like a trap.
Oh
So
my God.
for me, no contact. I was like, bet. I don't have to talk to him because I remember how it was the last night I was around him in the house, right?
Mhm.
All the things he was saying to me, I'll never forget some of those things. It was just crazy.
Mm.
And so that was pivotal for me, the whole healing. Um, First you have all the emotions when you realize
Yeah, I was gonna say like the self-blaming, like how did I stay so long? The shame and all of the negative emotions that are attached to it. Like
everything.
how did you deal with that? Like, do
Oh
you
my
go to
gosh.
therapy to help you with this? Like, what was your
I did
process?
get a therapist. I did. I got my own therapist. Actually, I
Okay.
got one for both my son and I because I knew he
Mm-hmm.
needed it. And I
Yeah.
said, "Well, if we did it like as a family thing, would you do it with me?" And lo and behold, our first right before our first session, he was like, "I don't want to do it." So I ended up, seeing a therapist alone.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a therapist, but really, the sessions tended to be more about sharing the craziness. Like literally, it was day in, day out, week in, week. It was like Tyler Perry movie. So between my girlfriends and my therapist, it was like break out the popcorn. Like, what is going on? Like,
What is happening?
yeah. So, but the emotions, you're surprised.
Mm.
Things are surreal. You're hurt. You're angry. You're
Mm.
disgusted, you know,
Like, how did I stay so long?
scared. I remember one point I felt scared especially when I first found out in November 2020. I had the fear for the first time because it was like, I don't even know this person. This isn't even who I thought it was. And they didn't value me or love me or care about me the way I thought
Mm.
he did. Because they never
Mm.
did.
Mm.
It's not about you. It's everything's transactional, everything. And so because of that, I would never have my back to him ever again in the bed. Like
You were scared.
a
Like,
lot
what
of
did
times
you
we would
do?
sleep with our back to each other anyway. I mean, we had a king size bed, but after I learned everything I learned, I would be literally on the edge on my side of the bed, like on the edge. My back is on the edge, but I'm facing him.
So you had no peace. Who sleeps like that? Like, that is not even what
It's crazy. I was like,
that
no,
is
I'm
not
not. My back is not. Nope, nope. But it was
that is
scary
like
because you're
so you
because
were
you're
sleeping with one eye open, like
yeah, because you don't know the individual. So it wasn't like I was scared. Like I think he's going to do something to me. Scared. It was scared at a higher level. Like this is a being
mm.
in my space that is a stranger,
Oh my God.
and they have
After
ill
25
will.
years.
They literally have ill will, and they've kept me here. So he never thought I was going to leave. He never thought I was going to end things. He had it good. He had it really good.
Mm.
He had it awesome, right? Because I was the main source, and
Mm.
he had the harem. All the other
Mhm.
females, they're considered to be a harem. It's
Mhm.
crazy what you learn in this space.
Mm.
I was the queen
So wait, is that
because I was
typical of
his
like
wife.
narcissists?
Yeah, yeah, it's a real
They will
thing.
hold women around and
No, I'm just saying it's always someone, right? So all those different people, they're secondary, right? They're the
right.
others. I was the main source. I'm the one who held his life down and our lives down, our son's life down. Like I was the main one. So he benefited a lot from me, but he didn't value me. And so
Mm.
you just go through a lot of those emotions,
Oh my
and
God.
in probably in a weird, twisted way, I was kind of relieved too. Like, oh, okay. The relief was I'm not crazy. I know other people experience this. There's a name for this. I can relate. People I followed on Instagram. Instagram was my safe place. I really wasn't on Instagram before. I had an account, but I really wasn't on it.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook was my thing then. Well,
Mm-hmm.
during everything, I shut Facebook down. I did
Mm-hmm.
housekeeping, some snip snip. I
Mm-hmm.
had cut some people free,
Mm.
you know, and but Instagram was my safe place. I started and YouTube, started following some people and things like that. And it's just it's like, oh my God, other people going through this, or they're going through this, or I'm not alone. Like you feel like so that was the relief part, right?
Mm.
So
This is
dealing
crazy.
with it,
Wow.
laughter.
I
I
can see that. It's
had
your like
to,
your outlet. You laugh a
yeah,
lot.
I've always had laughter in my life no matter what.
Yeah.
I guess that's just me, right? Um, I'm the one that they said, okay, if you have a woman who starts laughing in the middle of an argument, you need to run.
You need to run, right? Because you never
But
know.
yeah, but yeah, laughter helps because when things could get so crazy, I feel like there's nothing else you can do. Laugh about it, right? Like so insane. I love music, so I never missed a beat with my music. I love playing my music, right? And meditation,
Mm-hmm.
photo journaling. I photo journaled the whole journey, like good, bad days. I was taking, selfies of myself looking crazy when I'm crying or the awesome days, doing videos and, just all the things I was doing to get through the divorce, you know. It was a lot. It was a lot.
I can
Um,
imagine this. I mean, speaking of narcissism, like a lot of women don't get out.
mm-mm,
That's just the sad reality.
yeah,
A lot of people I know, they're dealing with this type of situation, and it just
mhm.
doesn't have to be women. You will find women narcissists, so the men have to put up with this foolishness.
Yeah,
But the fact is, a lot of people never leave, or even if they leave, that person finds a way to contact them, and they just ends up into that loop of like they go back, and then
yeah.
something
Because you
happens.
don't know what it is. That
Yes,
happens when you don't understand.
but it gets so bad that they will alienate you from all type of family or anybody that can potentially help you, and you just find yourself alone.
I don't even
That's
want to talk about family.
the saddest part about it. So it's
The worst about my experience, it really wasn't him. Like when I made the decision about him, it was what it was.
mhm,
File for divorce, just going through the process. The process isn't fun, but I have to go through it. I made the decision to go through the process
mm,
to change my life. So I got to go through all that, right? I have to do all the
mm,
things to get through that process. But it was just a matter of getting through the process. It wasn't about like mentally, like I don't even know this person, right? I don't. So that was just it was what it was. The worst part of everything was how skillful he was regarding my family. So yeah, like I told you about my closest cousin, relative at that point in time, even
mhm,
my daughter,
mm,
very good about manipulating her. And then my mom and my brother, they weren't even there for me
mhm,
because of it's like everyone gets together and they start like my cousin. When I tell you it was almost like she was like my ex, but for the family. So and it's like, I can't believe I thought like I loved her to death. And I thought I knew she loved me to death. Like we were that close.
mm,
And everything crumbled.
mm,
My daughter, unfortunately, she was easy. You know, my ex, he's really good about spoiling, you know, money and things and experiences. And
Mm.
so, yeah. But see, my son, he wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew what to do regarding my daughter, but he knew he couldn't control our son. So that's where, the discard regarding our son has occurred. And that's been painful to watch.
I can
It's
imagine.
Yeah, it's painful to watch your child go through that, and they don't deserve it. Like,
No,
just to
no
watch that.
child does.
Yeah, even though my parents were divorced, like my father, he wasn't the best man. He didn't always do the best things, but I still can draw on so many positives that he did for us, even after
Mm-hmm.
the divorce. Like
Mm-hmm.
there were so many life experiences because I'm an experienced person. I don't. The
Right.
material things aren't what makes you happy. So our son is like that. He just wasn't into the material stuff like that. And but I lost my family because my cousin, after she left, I was like, okay, good. I don't have to deal with that. And so I never told her what was going on. And apparently she found out. And then when I tell you, it's like she tried to destroy me, even with my family, even though I was the one throughout my life that's there, always helping,
Mm-hmm.
always doing the things to help this person or that person, in spite of, right? In spite of the dysfunction that I've always seen in the family. And so that was the hardest part. I want the betrayal part because one of the things I learned was that I thought would never happen. You have these narcissists have flying monkeys. They're called flying monkeys. That's what it's called, flying monkeys. And for my ex, it was pretty much my family. Um, the
So wait, what
betrayal.
what are the flying monkeys?
Flying
The
monkeys are those that they can manipulate
manip
to do
easily.
whatever against you. Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So to make you look bad, to make you seem like you're the reason why things are so, yeah. And some of them aren't aware. So they jump right on board. And that's what happened with me.
Mm.
So the biggest betrayal, you have betrayal trauma. And I'd like to read something if I may. It was something that
Yes,
came across to
by all
me
means.
on Instagram after the betrayal of my cousin because it didn't stop with how she started to treat me towards the end of her stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by the time we were at trial, well, we had a 2-day trial for our divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So we were planning to do mediation, but you still had to do a pretrial conference with the judge and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
it was that day that I learned that she was going to be his only witness against me.
Your own cousin.
My own cousin who I cared for.
Oh boy.
So this is what I
Oh
remember
child.
feeling when things turned really bad. Even before that point. At that point, I was good. At that point, I actually laughed about that because I was so healed at that point, by the time trial came up. But I want to share this. It says, do you know what betrayal trauma is? It's like you're being pushed out of an airplane before you're ready. You don't have a parachute and you're falling. You look up and you see your person and they're watching you. They are watching you fall and hit the ground and they are smiling. The fall breaks every bone in your body. Miraculously, somehow you survived, but you don't feel alive and you definitely don't feel lucky. The thing is, your person didn't stop the plane. They didn't land it. They kept going.
Mhm.
They didn't come back to apologize or to see if you were okay. Instead, they picked up a new person along the way. It wasn't just your bones that shattered, it was your self worth, your trust,
Mm.
your safety, your truth.
Oh boy.
You don't understand love anymore. You've met evil, and it killed a part of you before you were ready to die.
Oh boy.
When I
Woo.
came across that, I
Oh
said,
wow.
that described it perfectly. Perfectly. That's exactly how it feels when someone that you trust 1000% with your life, everything in your life, for over your life, when someone betrays you, that is
Mhm.
exactly what it feels like. And especially when they knew what was going on with your spouse.
Mm.
Like I said, she knew everything. She knew, even when I didn't know what was going on, she still knew what was going on. She knew I was upset. I would have to go away for a week just to get away. I would go down to her house and stay with her for a week just to get away.
So
She
she
knew
became
about,
a witness for him.
yeah, only witness. None of his friends, none of his colleagues, none of his family. You know why? Because they couldn't say anything about me. That's how masterful
Wow.
he was. And I had to put my boundaries up against my family. I said, I can't do this because I had to focus on the divorce.
Mm.
I waved the white flag. I said,
Mm.
you guys have won. I can't function in this family dynamic. So I walked away. To this day, with the exception of my daughter, we did reconnect. But to this day, I don't have a relationship with my mom and my brother, and definitely not my cousin. I had to block her because the communication was that bad. I was like, okay, I got to block her. I've never blocked anyone in my life. I've never blocked anyone. She's the only person I've ever blocked. And so, and I went through the process. I had to focus on the divorce. I couldn't focus on the dysfunction, right? Um, by time, we're divorcing, it's coming to, mediation. I'm great. I had landed a job, without even trying. A job just landed in my lap as soon as I filed for divorce. That
Mm.
was a blessing. So I was able to think about my future. He kept self-sabotaging himself. So penalties along the way. Well, that was
Mm.
great. Going into the bank account just because you don't want to do stuff. And that was along the way. That wasn't even
Mm.
final. So yeah, um, blessed throughout the process, embracing the journey. That was what I was determined to do.
Mm.
Embracing the journey. I don't care how crazy things got. And things still was crazy even after it was final, you
Mhm.
know. Um, but I was able to heal to the point that it was just like this. It was a blip when I found out.
Whatever he
And
started
she
coming.
wasn't even going to come be in person. They were going to allow her to
Mhm.
virtually call in to be a witness against me.
Mm.
I was like, wow.
That
But I
is.
was okay. As a matter of fact, when my attorney told me, because his attorney told her, I just laughed. I was like, you guys are so bad. Like, you're so bad. I don't even want to be around. Like, I don't even want to see what's going to come to you. You're that bad. Like, so he clearly tried to destroy me. Because when I found out, I could see him in the courtroom kind of lean back in his chair and look over on my side to see if I was devastated. And I'm just sitting there listening to the judge, like, like it's on, let's do this. Like,
Oh
no, you,
wow.
you did not break me. You did not break me.
I
He
am
tried.
so glad to hear that. He
Yeah,
tried.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
So
wow.
if I didn't go through all those things, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Oh, we're gonna get to that in a minute. Right now, you're like glowing. But how is your son, like, does he have a relationship with his dad?
I'm going to say I don't know.
Okay.
When I say I don't know, I literally mean here's what I do know. Since he left in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
he has never FaceTimed our son and he has never called our son.
Mm-hmm.
It is only text. That's another thing about narcissists, especially his kind. I can only speak about his kind.
Mm.
They don't like they don't want to deal with the personal connection because that's a personal connection when like I'm seeing your face and I'm hearing your voice, Fatu.
Mm-hmm.
That's a personal connection. I'm not just
Mm-hmm.
texting you. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
just emailing you, right? That's his only way of communicating with his son to this day.
Oh wow.
So if they happen to get together, which has really been, I'm going to count since 2022 when things were final, one and two and 22, and maybe one last year, maybe two, maybe five times since September 2022. And he lives here, right here in the area.
Oh
I
my
passed
God.
when I was going into the office for my job. I passed his building right there on the Beltway. Like, wow, this guy. Yeah.
This is
So
crazy.
that has been the hardest thing. And he knows that the way to try to get to me, the emotions, is through our son. So I had to really work on that. Like he would do, just the wackest things.
Mm.
And I would just be like, because mind you, I don't talk to him, right? But I would just draft it in an email because that's the only way we did communicate. If we communicate was email. He doesn't even have my phone number.
Mm.
He doesn't even have my cell number when I changed my cell number.
Oh wow.
And so I would react like, how dare you? You know, I'm just going on and on because I'm react
Yeah.
because son, right? And then I would breathe, and then I would just let it go, right? I had to do that. I have to remove myself from this. And I had to have that conversation with our son too. Like, you're
Yeah.
18 now because he turned 18. I said, I can't manage your relationship with your father anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it's been your whole life that I've tried to manage this for you and him.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that any longer. And so that has helped me as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have to let it go. He has to deal with him. But that's how it is. Like, I don't even know
My
if he saw
God.
him for his birthday. His birthday was April 23rd while I was at Squad Up Summit.
Sheesh.
And I don't know if he saw him. I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
so.
Question for you. Would you go back? Because a lot of people, a lot of women I know in this situation, they manage to get out for a bit. Somehow, some way, Mr. Narcissist flies back into their lives, and they just leave everything behind and they just go.
And it breaks my heart
Yeah.
to hear that happen. I wouldn't,
Okay.
because I don't know you. I don't even know who you are. I literally don't know who you are. Like, you're
Right.
just someone. Um,
Mm,
and I've had the life that I thought I was happy with. I mean, we had the life, like, you know what I mean? Like, there was nothing, I was grateful for our
mm-hmm,
life.
mm-hmm,
There's nothing you could do. And that's another thing I've learned. I've talked to other people have been in this type of situation, men and women.
mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, well, just be aware. Literally, it could be 10 years down the road.
They'll try to come back.
And I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. I can't see that happening. But you know what? Everything I learned and everything I said, oh, that's not happening, especially with the family. How, oh, yeah, they can get your family to turn against you. And I was like, that can never happen. My family loves me. I mean, it's my family. We're close. So I thought, right?
Right.
Well, that happened. So I'm like, that's the last thing. The last frontier
Oh
is,
boy.
if he
I
tries
hope
to
we
work,
never get
reach
there.
out. Yeah, I don't even want to entertain that. But
Yeah, let's not
I'm
do that.
ready. Like I'm a different person.
So with your healing process, give us a few. I know we're gonna leave like a description of everything that helped you learn. So just
Yes.
give us like a few snippets, like what are you doing to continue to heal from the last quarter century of trauma, pretty much. I mean, that's just what it is.
But
It's
you see
like,
all this gray hair, right? Like I'm
oh boy.
old. Um, I continue with the meditation. My favorite app, I think I shared this with you, is called Insight Timer.
Hmm.
To me, I loved Insight Timer better than like some of the other apps that are out there, supposedly that you got to pay for. And,
Hmm.
Insight Timer was amazing. So I have a lot of those meditations, even just the sleep ones, just to get you through, to fall to sleep like a baby or,
Hmm.
you know, getting your power back, things like that. One of my favorite people that I follow, Layla Delia, I discovered her on there.
Hmm.
Um, I surrounded myself with a lot of quotes then and even now. Like,
Hmm.
you see my little thing on the wall, find joy in
Like
the
in the
journey.
journey. Yeah.
I created, Layla Delia had this quote. One of the quotes was, remembering who you are is how you get your power back.
Whew.
So I made these cute frames, and this is another one that's kind of related that she said. I keep this in the office. The other one I kept in my bedroom, but this one is she remembered who she was and the game changed. But I
Mm.
made up, I created these and printed them out and framed them and just put them like in my office, in my
Hmm.
bedroom,
Hmm.
just different quotes. Another person I follow, she has this I am an unstoppable. I literally typed it out. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Um, so, it's
I
very
love it.
important for me to have those things around me, that those positive quotes or sayings. Um, it's just so instrumental, right?
Hmm.
And um, laughter again, and just enjoying life. Like now, I'm so. I had to come to the realization about a couple of months ago. Like, you know what? He's always going to be a part of my life,
Hmm.
and I'm okay with that. The reason he's always going to be a part of my life is because every single day that I wake up
Hmm.
and every single night that I lay down and go to bed, I am so freaking excited and happy about my life.
Hmm.
Like, so grateful of how I'm living my life right now.
Hmm.
I don't have that presence. I don't have the drama. Oh my God, I can make my own decisions and go with it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Progress.
Yeah.
And this last year, I have, compared to 25 years, progress has been like this. This
Hmm.
last year,
Hmm.
progress has been like up here, just in
Hmm.
1 year,
Hmm.
right? Um, because I'm living my life. I'm living my best life.
You are glowing for sure. So I told you this before. You look so happy now. It's amazing. What are you currently doing? Like I know what you're doing, but just tell the audience like life after this can be great. So
Yes,
what are you doing now? Like you
this can
besides
be
just glowing, what are you
amazing.
doing?
So after I sold our home last
Mm-hmm.
April of 2023, that was like the last hurrah, like the last major thing to get done
Mm-hmm.
um, because of the divorce.
Right.
And, I'm thinking at that point in time, oh my God, this is my favorite time of the year, spring and summer. I'm going to take my vacations. I'm going to do whatever. I'm just going to enjoy my favorite time of the year, you know. And literally one week, the following week after closing and selling my
Mm-hmm.
real estate investing kind of lands in my lap. And I have no, I haven't turned back. This last
Yeah,
year has been amazing.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
totally changed life. The people in my life, the people in the real estate investing communities I'm in, meeting
Mm-hmm.
people like you, Fatu, like
Oh,
amazing, right? I never even thought I'm so grateful that you asked me to be on this podcast. I knew one day I wanted to talk about this because it is very important for people to know you're not
mm-hmm,
alone, you're not crazy.
mm-hmm,
Others are going through this. There's a
mm-hmm,
support system, right? I
mm-hmm.
knew I would want to talk about it, but I was thinking 5 to 7 years down the road. Like I'm focused on real estate investing, right?
Right.
And then you and I met, and I was like, wow. Well, I did say I guess I'm gonna start living out loud this year, so I guess this is it. Like
This is it. We let it all
so,
out. I was
so secretive, not want anyone to know anything, even the real estate investing. Like I'm like, no one needs to know what I'm doing. I'm on my grind. Like I shut stuff down. Only a select couple friends knew. You know what I mean? Um,
well, that's out of the bag now. The cat is
it's
out.
out.
It's out.
Thanks to Mr. Morby
That's right. You know the
changing my
mindset that comes.
Instagram changing my Instagram so you can see my name because
That's
before it
right.
was at Moments by K. Like no
Like
one
who is
knows who that
Kay?
is.
Who's Moments?
Who's that? Who's Moments?
Who is that? Like if you don't
So
know who
yeah,
you
my
are,
name being displayed here is a huge deal for me. Like literally
it's huge.
putting myself out there and talking about what I'm doing. My
Yeah.
job ended at the end of March. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it wasn't voluntary, but I haven't missed a beat. You know what
Mm.
I mean? It's like apparently I was preparing for the end of my job
Right.
by doing everything since last year. And yeah, it's been an amazing ride.
I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. So, we're gonna wrap up, but if there's a woman or man, because it's not just one-sided, if there's somebody going through these type of situations, Karen has a wonderful PDF of, people she listened to, things that actually help her to change her mindset, shift, make that shift and actually just find herself again and have the courage to actually leave. So we're gonna leave that in the description box. You can find her at I am Karen Th- Th- Thra-
Thrasher.
Thrasher, Thrasher, on Instagram. And thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for coming on and saying your story. I think it's important. I told you this, like, the story is important to say that it is there. You can make it out
You
because
can make it out.
a lot of the women I know never make it out. They always end up going back. And she is over here living her best life, glowing,
Yeah.
investing,
Yes.
mindset shift, right?
Yes.
I am here for all of this. So any final words? What advice? I know that he's part of your journey and everything, and you're thankful that you went through that because now you're in a better place.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
if you could go back, what advice would you have given your younger self?
Oh my gosh. Okay, can I be funny?
Of course. Let's hear it.
The first thought is don't get married. Overrated. But I'm tainted. I shouldn't say that. But yeah, that's the first thought. But seriously, to my younger self, trust your gut. Like if something feels off, trust that no matter what, no
Mhm,
matter what, like it can
mhm.
save your life. Trust your gut. That's sort of like how it is for me now as a private money lender because that's how I operate in this space. Trust in your gut. You don't feel good about the borrower or the deal, or it's okay to walk
For the
away from that.
person,
Yeah, exactly.
run away, run.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
trust your gut. It can save you so much heartache and turmoil
Mm.
and pain, all that stuff for sure. Um,
Love that advice.
and always protect yourself
Hmm.
because I didn't. I did not protect myself. That was the I think that's the when you go through stuff like this and you deal with all those emotions I was talking about, I think the one that really jacks you up is realizing you did not protect yourself. And I will never do that again.
And
Like
I'm gonna
literally,
tell you right
I
now.
tell myself now,
Yes,
you will never be in that situation again.
that's right. And it's okay to forgive yourself too. You
Hmm.
didn't know what you didn't know.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but anyway, this was wonderful, guys. Please go follow her. I am Karen Thrasher, not trash, not Thrasher, right? But please follow her. She's wonderful. She's a private money lender. She's a buyer. She's a private money partner. So she's just all around wonderful and has so much wisdom she can share. If you're going through something, please reach out. I'm pretty sure she can have an advice or two or 10 to share with you and how to
Yeah.
get help.
Or
Absolutely.
even if it's about this topic
Yeah.
and you need to talk, you
Let her
know?
know. Let her know, guys. But
Yeah.
thank you, Karen. I appreciate your time, and we might have you on because I know a few ladies that might need some help, dealing with the people. We will call
Yeah.
them that, the people. But thank you. I
Beings.
appreciate it.
They are beings. I don't even call them people anymore.
Okay.
Beings that roam this earth that destroy lives. And yes, it's a real
That's
thing.
so unfortunate, but I very unfortunate. I appreciate it so much. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Please tune in to the next episode of Journeys of Life, where we talk about just, amazing individuals' journeys. Have a great one, everyone. Thank you.